Welcome back to another edition of Research Fantasy presents our MLB pitcher picks for Saturday, May 6th, 2017. I am your host, as always, Nick from CWE on all of your favorite daily fantasy sites, and I'm here to break down my top 3 pitching options on the slate today. Now, when I was first looking through this last night when I was penning my article for Research Fantasy, the first thing that stuck out to me is that I just really didn't like anybody on this slate. There was just a lot of guys that you could see had some potential, but for one reason or another, you're just like, but I can't pull the trigger. So it's definitely going to make lineup creation tonight a little more interesting. Looking at the bottom of the looking at the bottom of the options, there's just not anything to get excited about. The options that we're looking at, guys like Adrasimer Despain, Chase DeJong, Tyler Anderson in Coors, Ty Blotch, who has no strikeout ability, Dylan Covey. These are all below average pitchers who we're excited because either their circumstances dictate that they should probably give up big games, or we know that we just have some names to eliminate from our list right away. But unfortunately with that, it robs us of a lot of potential value. Now, from my perspective, where I'm sitting, I think there's some value potentially in a guy like Patrick Corbin. Has some strikeout upside. Colorado, very potent offense, but when they're down, they're down. And I understand a lot of times going back home for that first game is a little bit difficult. So that's what's keeping me away from Patrick Corbin. I think one of the more popular value picks tonight will be Robert Jesselman. And for what reason, I will never quite know. People just gravitate to this guy. Apparently, they like getting no fantasy production. Always good to have a guy who, in his last 3 games, has given up 10 earned runs. Last 2 games, I'm sorry. He might have pinch hit or something in a game. Last 2 games, 10 runs, 2 strikeouts. That's pathetic. That's over 9 innings of pitching. Even before that, he's really the best we've seen him do on 2 separate occasions were 7 strikeouts with 3 earned runs. So not a lot to really love there. I think the first guy I'm personally going to be looking at is... I came into this with the mentality that I just wasn't going to just regurgitate what I wrote in my article, because I really try not to do that, but unfortunately that's where we're at. I'm looking at Amir Garrett, 7,600. Pitching in Cincinnati, not exactly an ideal circumstance for him, but he's had 2 solid outings there, 1 against Baltimore, which he'll most likely never repeat, 1 against Pittsburgh. Again, outside of his 12 strikeout anomaly game, he's had 4, 5, 1, and 4. So I think you can be pretty confident in saying that this is a guy who's likely to strike out 4 to 5 batters. He's a guy that could maybe end up in a little bit of better position. We know that San Francisco far more dominant when they're against right-handers because their better hitters, in my opinion, are from the left side of the plate. Why go Garrett over guys like McCullers, Vince Velasquez? Well, those guys are our high strikeout guys, but Vince Velasquez, who struggles with left-handers against Washington, who have, 2 reasonable left-handers in Harper, who might be out. It's tough to say whether he's going to play or not. They say he's supposed to return to the lineup, but nonetheless, they still have Daniel Murphy. I guess if Harper's out and you're really just looking at getting past Murphy, I don't hate the matchup, but by no means do I love the matchup either, because that team is possibly the best offense in baseball. And with Lance McCullers, you have the Angels, who just don't strike out that much. On top of that, my next pitcher, Dylan Bundy, if I would have come with McCullers, we'd be talking about 3 of my favorite tournament pitchers in the top 5 in pricing, and that just seems kind of cheap if you really want me to be honest. It seems cheap to just rattle off 3 of the top 5 priced pitchers on FanDuel as my options. Dylan Bundy, though, excellent start to the year. Price remains pretty solid at $8,200. I think he's fairly priced on DraftKings. I think he's $85 there. But his strikeout upside going against a White Sox team that to me just isn't that impressive. I think this is a team that does have the tendency to strike out quite a bit. Again, something we look for. We don't just want high strikeout upside from our pitchers, but it's great if the lineup that he's facing strikes out a lot too, and we end up with a situation where they strike out at a 25% clip against righties. This is a perfect situation for him. Bundy's like any other pitcher, could end up with a bad outing, but the matchup here says he should be in for pretty good opportunity tonight. Now, initially I had Garrett Cole as my top pitching option, which made me very sad because the way I look at Garrett Cole, even though he's pitched pretty well this year, is that he's a mental midget, and when he makes a mistake, he's not a type of pitcher who rebounds from it. He lets it get in his head, and then the unraveling begins. So I was very excited when I learned that Clayton Kershaw was going to be starting today instead of tomorrow, and now we have our ace that we can really easily rest upon, taking on the San Diego Padres. This is a match made in heaven. Kershaw, big first game of the year against the Padres, 8 strikeouts, 1 earned run, 7 innings. Again, we have yet to see a Clayton Kershaw-esque performance, double-digit strikeouts, 8 innings pitched. He has looked not very good in his last 2 outings here. I think that this is being pushed up here so that, and actually it's been his last 3 because the game before that was Coors, so I guess he did all right. Or no, that was against Colorado. Anyway, yeah, I think this is a situation, and he did have double-digit strikeouts there. I don't know how I miss these things sometimes. Anyway, Kershaw versus the Padres needs no explanation. Here's the dilemma. The dilemma is we've got Patrick Corbin and Tyler Anderson going at Coors. Both of these left-handed pitchers. Both offenses have guys that can hit left-handed pitching really well. So the dilemma comes down to, can you play Kershaw and still build a solid lineup around him? I think absolutely. FanDuel pricing a little looser, so it's not as difficult, though. Truthfully, when you have Kershaw on the mound and you have a Coors game, you're probably going to be in a better position on DraftKings because you have that second pitcher that you can kind of offset a little bit the cost if you find a guy that's cheaper than you think he should be. But just an example, if you want to try to run with Kershaw and Goldschmidt on FanDuel, leaves you just shy of $2,500. If you want to go with he and Arenado, just shy of $26,000. So it's a little bit tough, but I like that. Obviously, you should not be able to fit Coors and Kershaw in your lineups. It's fantasy baseball. DFS is all about making decisions. That's the decision you're going to have to make tonight. Thanks for watching today. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel below. Head over to researchfantasy.com to sign up for our MLB mailing list. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Research and Win. And join us again tomorrow.